everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's Momo here again, as it will always be. And today's video, we're going to be talking about what is witchcraft. My whole channel is going to be revolved around it, and I just figured the next best video is going to be just kind of explaining what witchcraft is, a little history behind it, and kind of what it is nowadays as well. So, without further ado, let's just get right into it. I have this book here, this little notebook full of notes. So if you guys see me looking down, it's probably just because I'm reading out of my book to make sure I don't forget anything. So what is witchcraft? Witchcraft is a broad term that varies from culture to culture. There are a lot of different styles, branches, depending on, the climate of that area and the traditions that kind of were around it. There are many cross-culture assumptions about witchcraft, and that can lead to bad stigmas. Because yes, there are practices of witchcraft that are considered dark arts or black magic, but we don't need that being the broad term for all of it. Down to the bottom of it, witchcraft is a spiritual practice that uses energy and other natural forces for the benefit of the caster. So for example, suppose I wanted protection in my home. A way I could do that is by making a little pouch, using different herbs and stones and hang it above my door. There are plenty of traditional spells or crafts that people like you probably do not on a daily basis, but semi-regularly, that actually kind of comes from witchcraft. For example, birthday candles, blowing out the birthday candles. That's an old witchcraft thing. Witchcraft alone is not a religion, but it can be practiced in the presence of a deity. And this is where it gets a little confusing for some. Because as I mentioned earlier, there are different styles and practices and branches, you could call them, of witchcraft for each culture, kind of depending on the region, the climate. What did those people really need to do spell work on? Is it a place where there are droughts and they needed to do rain dances? Is it a place where there are a lot of predators around and they needed a lot of protection? So, it's sort of really back then depended on the region and what was needed at that time. But back in the day, witches were once known as healers, and their practice or their craft was known as the craft of the wise. They actually had a lot of respect back then in their little towns. They were considered the healers, and if anybody had a problem, they would generally go to the witches. This craft has been dated back to the Paleolithic period, which is also known as the Stone Age. And this has been proved by cave drawings on the walls that match up with deities and symbols and all sorts of things that we still use today. So very, 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 very old practice. Now going back to the thing about it not really being religious, you can bring deities into your witchcraft, and that's kind of where the branches start to form and take place, whether it's Wicca or paganism or whatever. They start to shift a little bit. The witchcraft starts to shift when it becomes more religious than just spiritual. You can do either or, you can do both. Witchcraft is a very free-flowing practice, and you can kind of meld it to your own wants and needs. Even though traditional rituals and deities change with the region, most branches of witchcraft follow the same sort of guidelines. For an example, probably the biggest and most well-known one is harm none. So, we practice all this witchcraft, and a lot of people who practice it, they don't do it to harm anybody. They kind of do it for their own benefit. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with people who do hexes and curses. I'm just saying I'm personally not one of them. But whatever floats your goat, just don't curse me, please. Another thing that ties all the practices together, other than harm none, more so I feel like than harm none, is the idea that we are part of this earth. We do not own it. And you will see this in a lot of different religions and stuff like that, because it's a big one. A lot of people realize we're not here to own this earth and make it our own. We are here as part of an ecosystem and we take and use what we can. Back in the day, witches were really good about if they took a resource, they would always make sure to replenish it. So like if they cut down a tree for Yule, they would plant another one. Nowadays, we're not so good about that. But back then it was a very like reuse, recycle, renew, all that good stuff. We understood the connection to the earth and its energies, and how we, with this connection, can kind of pull energies that we need or cast out energies we don't want, and stuff like that. So witches have a very deep connection to the earth and all the energy and forces around it. It's understood that we give out, or it's understood rather that whatever we give out is very likely to be boomeranged and come right back to us. That's pretty much how spells work. So if you cast out and you say, I desire good luck on my driver's test, hopefully it should loop back around full circle and come back to you. And that's another reason why I personally don't curse or hex, because I feel if I put that out, it will come right back to me. So again, to each their own. I'm not one to shove religion down people's throats. I'm just here for educational purposes. But essentially this whole like it going back and coming around again is essentially karma. A lot of witches believe in the theory of karma. What you give, you get. Now we're going to start talking about sort of modern day versus traditional. Just a little bit, kind of dipping our toes in, we'll call it. So witchcraft has changed in modern day society, of course, for many, many reasons. One of the reasons being we just have a lot more now than we used to. Back in the days, like, I don't know, Renaissance and even older, like I was saying back to the cavemen, we kind of, in modern day society, we use witchcraft for kind of small things. In our world, it might be big, like if you have heartbreak and you're trying to get over it and you use some spell casting, or you talk to a guardian to help you. You know, like I said, good luck on a test, protection in the home, things like that are relatively small in comparison to some of the things that older witches, or what we used to call healers, would do. So they would be in charge of keeping their town safe and happy. They'd be in charge of making sure, you know, the weather. I know it sounds crazy, but think of rain dances. Think of, you know, if it was raining for days, they might do the opposite and do a sun dance when they want the clouds to disperse again. So things like that. And again, it all really depended on the region. If you were in a place where it was hot, hot, hot like the desert, you might be doing rain dances a lot. But if you were in a place like, I don't know, Europe, somewhere in Europe where it's really rainy all the time, you might be asking for the sun. So sort of things like that. Kind of rambling on at this point, but I hope that, you know, you understand what I mean. Living was a lot harder back then. Like I said, they had to really, you know, grow their food. And if they had a bad harvesting season, then they were pretty much effed all winter long. So it was really important for them to have this kind of spiritual contact with the earth and help them to get what they needed to survive. So quite literally, witchcraft was used for survival. It may sound kind of dramatic, but it kind of is what it was. Now that society is modernized, most of us, when we're lucky and we have a roof over our head and we live in a place where we can get food all the time, we don't really have to worry so much about droughts and famines and floods, hurricanes. I mean, we still do, but not as much, not to a huge extent. So it was used a bit more. And again, society was a lot smaller back then. So everybody knew everybody, and you could, you know, you could be like, oh, how's that doing? And fix it. But due to the world's various witch trials around that happened, both in England and in America, all over the place, when Christianity was kind of taking its form and everybody was trying to convert everybody else, they started to create rumors about witches that you still hear today. So rumors like warts, green skin, turning into toads, you know, casting spells on people with bippity boppity boo sort of magic became this big stigma towards witches. And everybody started to believe that, to the fact that it's even in the Bible, that we are bad people. One of the things that I crack up the most about is people who ask me if I worship the devil. The devil is not even in my religion. The devil is a Christian character, not in any of my books. So please stop telling me I worship the devil, because I don't even know who he is. But in reality, like I said earlier, witchcraft is a very peaceful spiritual practice that can be used as a religion with the presence of a deity. I'm actually going to put up some pictures of like the difference between witchcraft, Wicca, and paganism, because there is a slight difference, kind of like the difference between like a Lutheran and a Catholic person. You know, there are little slight differences in the way they practice and the way they pray and all those sorts of things. And it's the same with witchcraft. There are different styles, branches, practices. Because of modern day and the way it is now, a lot of people are considered eclectic. Because being a traditional witch, like I said earlier, is quite hard unless it kind of runs in your family and you have old books that somehow lasted through all of that craziness back in the witch trial era. So a lot of us are eclectic witches. We take what we have, we use it to our benefit, and then we return. So it's a little different. Some of the words we use or things we say, rituals we perform, spells we cast are going to be slightly different because the materials we have and the things that are available to us. But it is still witchcraft nonetheless. I am a firm believer in do not cast spells on people who you do not have consent from. I just feel like it's like anything else. You wouldn't touch somebody you didn't have permission to do anything to. You wouldn't, you know, it's kind of a respect thing. So I personally don't curse or hex or do any even love spells, because I believe that's kind of like brainwashing somebody and kind of taking away their free will. So that's a big thing in my personal craft, is I don't cast spells or even do tarot reads, anything on somebody who I don't have permission to do it on. To each their own. I'm not bashing or downing on anybody who does. That's just my own personal way. And just kind of keep that in mind if you're starting to try witchcraft or dabble into it. You might want to think about these sorts of things. What are your morals when you're practicing witchcraft? What would you like to do? What do you not feel comfortable with? And just know that all of that is fine. So I really hope you guys enjoyed today's video. I think I'm gonna wrap it up there. If I missed anything or got something wrong, I don't think so. I really checked my resources and made sure I was pulling good information for you guys. But anyway, if there's anything else you'd like to know, just leave a comment down below. I also have a Tumblr and an Instagram page, and I will leave them in the description bar. And I hope to see you all in the next video. Happy crafting, be safe, blessed be.